Hi, everyone. I'm Taj Greenlee, Senior Director of 9-2-NY's Recanati Kaplan Talks. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Budweiser Hall at the Arnold Center at the 92nd Street Y, New York. We're excited to host this event that is part of our 150th anniversary season, Netflix's Baby Reindeer, screening and creator and cast and conversation. We are honored to share this special opportunity to hear from the cast and creator of Netflix's powerful and compelling new limited series, Baby Reindeer. Based on true events, Baby Reindeer follows comedian Donny Dunn's warped relationship with his stalker, Martha, which impacts his life in ways he could never have imagined. It is written by and stars Richard Gadd, along with co-stars Jessica Gunning and Nava Mao. It is based on the award-winning hit Edinburgh Fringe one-man play of the same name. When the series landed on Netflix, it was the network's #1 series and had a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. We'll show the first 2 episodes this evening and then have a quick set change and then bring out our panelists for a conversation with journalist Tomris Laffly. A few quick bits of housekeeping. We'll collect your audience questions on index cards to share with our guests before our time ends. Include your first name, write clearly, and try to stay on topic. And also, we ask that you please don't video record this event and don't use flash photography. We don't want to disturb our guests on stage or your fellow patrons. Also, join us for upcoming events like Noah Hawley in conversation with John Hamm, Dakota Johnson in conversation with MTV's Josh Horowitz, and The Daily Show's news team, all events taking place this month. For more information about upcoming events, please follow us on Instagram and at 92ny.org for updates. We really appreciate your support, and now we present Baby Reindeer, and when we return, give our guests a very warm 9-2-NY welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to tonight's panel on Baby Reindeer, a show, a provocative, brilliant, and very important show that I really, really love. My name is Tomris Laffly. I'm a contributor for Variety and RogerEbert.com, and I'm so very honored to be joined by our panel of great artists tonight. So let's bring them out. She plays Terry in the show. Please welcome Nava Mao. And she plays Martha. Please welcome Jessica Gunning. And he is Donny, and he also is the writer and creator of Baby Reindeer. Please put your hands together for Richard Gadd. Hello, everyone. So let's start with talking about last night. You were at the inaugural Gotham TV Awards, and Baby Reindeer won, and I want to congratulate you. It was in the Breakthrough Limited Series category, because it's a history-making win, because it's the first of its kind. I want to just ask you, what was it like for you? What did it mean for you to be there? Hopefully this is one of the first of many awards to come. So maybe we can start with you, Richard.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a lovely evening. It was good to be, it's surreal, you know, it's quite surreal with this kind of niche British show, you know, which is about, have we just seen those 2 episodes, or have we seen most of it, or the whole thing?
The whole thing, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously a very like singular
Thank you.
show, and it's very like weird, idiosyncratic show. You know, never in a million years thought that we'd all be getting sort of flown to New York to speak to all you wonderful people and to go to nice fancy awards like that. It's sort of crazy. It's like living in a dream, really. But it was a beautiful ceremony. We loved it. And then we hosted an award as well, and it was great to be together. And we live back in the UK. Nava lives in the US, so it's always nice to be reunited and together, you know, as a 3M with all the crew and stuff that worked on it. So it was just, yeah, it was a great evening. Yeah.
And you, Jessica, Nava?
Yeah, same. It just felt a bit like a pinch me moment that we're even here, let alone nominated and also winning. My heart was beating in my throat when they were announcing the winner. But yeah, we were really chuffed to bits.
Yeah, I mean, I think surreal is the word. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of forgot that the show was nominated because we were presenting, and that was really what I was like most nervous about. And then all of a sudden people were asking about like, how does it feel to be nominated? I was like, oh, that's right. And then to end up on stage at the end, I mean, it just feels like we're flying, and hopefully one day I'll touch the ground again. I don't know. Yeah.
I'll get used to it because, again, this is one of the early ones of hopefully many more to come. So let's talk about the show. This is based on your one-man play, Olivier Award-winning one-man play, to bring up another award, which is based on your own life. At what point did you think that there's also a screen adaptation of it that was brewing inside of you? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think when I was writing the theatre show, I did sort of think as I was writing it, oh, this could be a sort of television series. This could be an adaptation. I just kept thinking it was kind of like had thriller elements, had all those kind of cliffhangery moments. It had all those cliffhangery moments in the play, and I thought the characters kind of interesting and. Yeah, it just felt very televisual. I'd done a lot of live shows before, and all the ones before, they were so sort of heightened, conceptually heightened, that they weren't sort of readily adaptable, but this one felt possibly the most grounded play that I'd ever done, and the most real in a way. And so, yeah, always in the back of my mind, I hoped that there would be television interest in it. And when the play started to pop off and get so much success, yeah, that all happened quite quickly. It was almost the second the play was out. Debuted at the Edinburgh Fringe in August 2019, and I think almost by the time that Fringe was over, there was you know, broadcasters and production companies making offers on it to adapt it and stuff like that. So it all happened quite quickly. Yeah.
So what was your writing process like? Because in this show, you're so brilliantly braiding several different themes about, you know, self-hate, trauma, mental health, and our own deeply flawed humanity. Maybe this is an intangible process, but I'm wondering if you can talk about braiding all those elements together and working through the story.
Yeah, no, I've got quite an unhealthy writing process. I kind of obsess quite a lot, and I sort of, when I write something or work on something, I need it to kind of consume me. It needs to kind of become my life. So I've done very little else. It's weird because I've got my life back kind of now, and well, I sort of don't. Let's be honest. but it was a weird adjustment, you know, because it was about, I think it was almost about 4 years straight working on the show, including the live show, which debuted in 2019. I mean, Baby Reindeer has been my life for so long now, like 5 years, and you know, it was a one-man monologue. I was on stage, you know, with a stool recounting a story. And then I had to adapt it into, you know, 7 episodes, multiple characters, multiple storylines, flashback episodes, and all this kind of stuff. So it was like it was a hell of a sort of adaptation. And I don't know, you almost like had to pull it from the mist and sort of just I don't know. I just worked tirelessly on it day and night. It was very unhealthy, very obsessive, and yeah. And I was just striving for something. I don't know. I just have to sort of just write and just keep going and obsessively rewrite. I mean, there's some episodes that I was always on the 1,000 mark in terms of like the drafts, you know, like constant reworking. But yeah, it was just, I just obsessively wrote for ages, really, yeah.
And you reached this brilliant thing, so thank you. Jessica, tell me a little bit about first time reading the part Martha. What was your reaction, and why did you say yes? It's a very tricky role, and you did a brilliant job. I feel like in different hands it would have gone a different way, but you just struck the exact right chord for it. So what was it like for you, meeting Martha and saying yes to playing Martha?
That's very nice of you. Thank you. So I'd seen Richard's show Monkey See, Monkey Do, which was loosely what episode 4 was based on. So I already knew his writing, and I thought he was brill. I actually tried to get tickets to see the stage show of Baby Reindeer, but it was sold out. So I bought the stage play, which is a little bit Martha of me. and read it every day. No. So when the audition came through, I did kind of get super excited because I thought, oh my God, is this what I think it is? And I read all of the episodes in one go, and I thought it was honestly one of the best things I'd ever read. And I just kind of saw her, not to sound too cheesy, but I really got her from Richard's amazing writing. I just kept thinking, I think I could do this, because I think if it was in the hands, like you say, of somebody maybe who saw her as crazy or saw her as a villain, I think it would be a real shame. It wouldn't have done justice to just how nuanced and complicated a character she is. And so luckily, I went in to audition. Oh, police are on the way. I went into audition over the space of about 4 months, and finally wore them down and got them to give me the part, which was nice.
So there are scenes where, I look at Marta and she is so vulnerable and also really volatile and really infuriating and on the verge of something that might be crazy coming, and she goes back to being sweet again. I can't help but empathize with her every now and then. I'm wondering how you navigated all those complex layers of this character. How did you build certain pointers for you, maybe physicality, crafting her laugh? Those were all very Marta things. So tell me about tapping into all those layers that make Marta.
Yeah, again, I mean, it is down to the writing. All the layers are there in the script. And so I think for me, it was just about kind of playing the truth of her. I really, really empathise with her, especially for those of you who've seen the whole thing, the final voice message she leaves for Donny. That, for me, made me emotional every time I read it. And so I think that's the kind of core of her. And also the scene when she talks about wanting to zip him open and snuggle away inside him for winter. I practiced that actually with a friend of mine for the audition. And I said, oh my God, this is my favourite scene. It's the most romantic scene in the show. And at the end, she was like, and I really was shocked because I was like, how else could you read it? But then I was like, oh yeah, okay. But I think it's sweet. And so, yeah, I think that you just have to kind of try and play the truth of everything. And again, with Richard and Veronica and Josephine, our amazing directors, just try and find that balance, because she changes so much in the space of a scene, just making sure it's believable and we don't go too far with it. Yeah. And
Nava, just in contrast to most of the characters in the show, your character, Terry, has it together, just is the sound of reason almost throughout the show. So tell us a little bit about building that for her. What did it mean for you to say yes to playing Terry?
It's funny, everyone says that, that Terry's like the strong character and she's the voice of reason, and it's reminded me of, we had to do the poster shoot, the promo shoot, you remember? So when you film, then after that, you have to go back and do promo shoots where you're back in character, but modeling, it's weird. So when I did Terry's shots, I put on Terry's playlist that I had created, and it was this very vulnerable moment where I realized, it was a lot of sad music. It was a lot of heartbreak. It was a lot of, tormented music. And I think that's the side of Terry that I actually was bringing in and developed quite in depth that people don't see, because, her relationship with Donny is what has brought her so much torment and so much pain and confusion and chaos. And so a lot of the building, aside from finding the strength to bring that Terry fire, I really actually had to figure out, well, what is it that's causing her to be so vulnerable? And to kind of let this story play out as long as it did. So that was actually more, my process was building both sides of her, yeah.
And Terry is a very special character for a lot of reasons that you talked about, but also partly because she's not the kind of character we usually see in television or in film. You know, a trans woman, we don't see these relationships very much. I'm wondering if you can talk to that effect. What did it mean for you to, you know, have in front of you this, you know, layered character, not a one-note character, but someone who has her own story, her own arc?
Yeah. You know, reading the script, for the first time, I just got the sides and the first episode. And then to do the callback, I was actually at a film festival. I wasn't home. I was staying in an Airbnb, and then I got the whole series. And I did a Zoom with Richard and Veronica, and then I had to tape again a few more scenes. But I'm like at the film festival, you know what I mean? So at night, I would come back, and I feel like I had kind of that same obsession that you're describing when you were writing. Like, it was like I couldn't stop thinking about the story. I couldn't stop thinking about the characters and trying to figure out how to. It's like Terry has like such a strong constitution, but then what's so beautiful about the writing is that there's all these little pieces of her that seep out, and that's just built into the story. And it's her job, it's her friends, it's her little quirks, it's her humor, it's the way she loves Donny. I mean, it's all of that, and I think that is so rare for me. The roles that I get are so often token characters, throwaway characters, the butt of the joke, and oftentimes maybe well-intentioned, but not written from truth. And so the truth was woven throughout Terry's story, and I just could feel that on every page, and it was just the greatest gift.
Beautiful, thank you. So since I feel like most people here have seen the entire show, we can maybe get into a little spoilery territory. I want to talk about episode 4 specifically, because I feel like that episode is when you take a bit of a turn and take us to an unexpected direction, and you tap into a particularly tough, painful part of your history. What was it like for you to relive that through writing the show and also through writing the play, maybe even?
Yeah, it was tough. Like, it was almost mad thinking back about it. Like put myself through it all, you know, again. But it was, it took a while, you know, like to unwork that all from my system. You're talking mainly about the sort of acting and the interactions and all the sort of reenactments and stuff, aren't you? Yeah. Look, it was tough. Like, they were tough days on set. There was a lot of tough days on Baby Reindeer. There's no blooper reel, I'll put it that way. There's not, you know, like it's like those. I think it was 11 days straight in Darien's flat. I think we shot. I think it was 11 days straight. You know, and it was important we got it right. There was a lot of discussions. I really wanted, you know, I was very particular about the way things had to be done, and there was lots of discussions and very, very intense days, and it's closed sets, so only the very essential people sort of within the walls were filming, and there were tough days, you know. It was felt across, not just me. It wasn't just me struggling with it. I mean, bless Tom Goodman Hill, like, you know, as well. He's the nicest man, actually, you know. People shout at him in the street now, "You bastard!" He's an actor, you know, like, leave him alone, jeez. But he's like the sweetest dude. I couldn't have asked for a better guy to do all that stuff with. He has got a heart of gold, honestly. We go for coffees now, genuinely. People walk in the cafe, they're like,
oh.
He's back again, Jesus. When will he learn? But it was tough. You know, I always remember like this, you know, like this moment on set where, like, you know, we were doing, I think, the bit where Donny flops back to the couch and he's kind of, you know, he's losing his consciousness, and you know, and we filmed that a few times, and you know, like, I remember looking up and the props guys, and usually the props people on set are like, "Oh, yeah, how's it all going?" You know. like the really manly men, and the guys, I can see them in the corner, like wiping tears away from their eyes. Do you know what I mean? And it was really tough. I remember looking over at Veronica, at the monitor. She was always on set. She always had a handheld monitor, and she would sit in the corner. And I saw her. She always wore her emotions on her face. So sometimes if I was doing a scene and I thought, oh God, am I not landing here? I'd look over. She'd be like. And I'd be like, I think I'm doing quite well here. And I'd look over and she'd still be like, but she always wore it. She always felt it. And I remember looking over at her and seeing her getting emotional down the monitor. It was an upheaval for everyone, But, I knew that at the end of it, I really had a belief, I suppose, that it was going towards something that could be quite special and that could make its mark and change the way people thought about things or the way people understood things. So there was always a greater purpose that I think we were aiming towards that kind of pulled us through it,
And an actor's process is a mystery to most of us who don't act. So I asked Jessica and Nava about tapping into their character's headspace. I'm not sure if I can ask the same question to you because it's based on your life, but in a way maybe I can because you're playing a former version of yourself and younger version of yourself. So how removed are you from the character? Do you feel like you're acting to be someone else, or do you feel like you're still acting like yourself? And
yeah, no, I had to sort of change quite a lot to get back into it. I haven't gone through all this stuff in real life. I had to grow up quite quickly in life. I sort of, my 20s were just kind of dealing with just this awful kind of thing and just having to sort of grow up. And, and I had to sort of become quite sort of, I just had to grow up, and so going back to it was like going back to a kind of naive, sort of broken, hyper-neurotic kind of place in my life. And I just remember just feeling so broken back then, almost like feeling like I was hit by like a truck. I almost just struggling to just get through every single day, like wading through sludge. And I just remember feeling so like brittle in my body. And I, when I was writing Baby Reindeer, I was 16 stone, and I just shot a show called Wedding Season. I was like a super villain in it, and I was a big, bulky, muscly guy, which is kind of mad. And I was writing Baby Reindeer and going to the gym. That's all I did: go to the gym and write, go to the gym and write. And I remember, it was like Baby Reindeer was approaching, and I thought the whole show wouldn't work if I was kind of stacked, like the Darien, like naively, and I'm like, just trying to make it at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I'm like some big, bulky dude, and I really wanted to get back to how I felt, and so I made the decision to kind of go back to a sort of post-abuse, post-drugs, sort of thin, frail body. And I really did a lot of I really reopened a lot of things in my head, before I did certain scenes. I remember the monologue scene, I really had to put myself back in certain places to sort of bring that realism to the camera, because it wouldn't have worked if I just sort of went on set like this and just acted and went back to it. I had to feel it. I'm one of those actors that has to sort of feel it a bit before I do something, So, yeah, it was a whole process.
Thank you. And Jessica and Nava, I want to talk to you about a scene in episode 3. Richard just mentioned about having conversations and feeling, safe and feeling comforted. You have the scene in season 3. There's an altercation. It gets physical and, it's very verbal. What were some of the conversations you had? And obviously, Richard is a part of that scene too, to make sure that you're hitting all the right notes, but you're still protecting each other's boundaries and everybody feels comfortable with each other. What was that process like? It is a brilliant scene, by the way.
Yeah, well, we had a chance to rehearse before with a stunt coordinator. So we had a bit of time to kind of check in with each other. It's obviously a strange first meeting. How are you doing? Let's have a fight. But obviously, I think you deal with a lot of things, I suppose, in a way with humour. And then on the day, obviously, it's a bit more of a serious vibe, but hopefully we looked after each other and checked in, and Richard was obviously there and really important in that dynamic too. But yeah, it's tough because your body kind of doesn't really know you're pretending, so you can't kind of shake the feeling after, really. But it was a really important scene to obviously try and get right as well. So I'm really pleased we had a chance to kind of rehearse beforehand, because quite often in this business we call show, you don't have that much time to prepare and check in. It is kind of like hit the ground running. So I'm really grateful we have that rehearsal day, because it's an important scene to get right and make sure that, you know, Nava's feeling safe and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was like a whole day, right? I mean, without that, I think there would have been too many things to work out. And so when the day came to, I mean, it was multiple days that we filmed that actually, but when we started filming it, I kind of, it was like I was just gonna have to let myself go and then come back. And so the only way that I could do that is knowing that wherever I go, there was gonna be padding, literal, you know, stunt padding for when I'm being thrown, but I think emotional padding too, that I just felt quite immediately from you, and I think it was also, I mean, like Richard was there too, you know what I mean? It was almost like in the filming mirrored the performance, because we had to keep doing our part over and over, and then, you know, Richard kind of had to watch and then like check on me in between, and it just kind of all felt real, and in a way, even though I know it was acting, like the emotion of it was real. I mean, do you remember when I didn't know that if we were done, because we had to do this one shot where they, instead of cutting in another take and cut in another take, we just did, I forget what that's called, but where you just do the take after take after take after take. And so I just cried and cried and cried for like 10 minutes or whatever, and was like trying to do slightly different, you know, takes, but it was like, I don't know if anybody knew like when to stop or who's gonna decide that we've had enough, and I think all of us kind of got lost in it in that moment, and it was finally after that, I think I was like, I don't remember, I was like, can it be over now? Like, I'm like crying, and Veronica was like, oh yes, I'm so sorry. So Veronica, the director, thought that I like wanted to keep going, and so finally we stopped, and then it was over in like a flash. I literally was like, okay, all right, and then that was it. Yeah.
So we're talking about some, you know, dark themes, and then Richard, you mentioned some tough days on set. I'm wondering, you know, at the end of a tough shoot day, what did you have to do to kind of shake off, you know, some of the things that you've been through during the shoot? What did you do for fun so that you can actually regain, you know, some of your energy and be back on set the next day?
Oh, I mean, I didn't.
You stayed in character.
No, it was like, because I was also, you know, exec producer of the show as well. So usually when I finish the filming day, I'd be back in the car sending a million emails about like what was coming, and, you know, sleep about 2 hours and get up, send another million emails and go to set. It was a constant kind of revolving door of activity. It wasn't until filming finished that I got to sort of go, okay, you know, time to try and unwire this. And it took a while, you know, for sure, to get it kind of out my system again and get back to normal.
How about for you guys? Did it take a while to get it out of your system? Did you live with these characters for a while?
No, I was fine. No, I'm joking. Sometimes when I get asked that question, I always think about actors that go, I couldn't like shake the character for years, and I'm always like, oh, get over yourself. But the thing about this project is when we were filming, it felt so special. I think all the crew felt like that too, and I think we were all really in it, you know. And I love feeling part of a team, and I always miss filming whenever it finishes, just because I love being there and I love working, and with this job especially, I just absolutely loved it. And so I suppose it was hard to shake, because we were, you do long days and you're there, and you do feel like a big family. I mean, lucky for me, my final scene was actually the final scene in the courtroom, and so that felt like a really nice way to kind of tie things up and say goodbye in a way. But yeah, I think it is hard to shake. But I think that's also important to feel that sadness as well, not to be too wanky. But these jobs are very few and far between, and so you've got to really cherish them. And I think it's okay to kind of feel like you miss it, because it felt like a really special thing to be part of.
Nava?
I cried and cried and cried. Yeah, it was, I didn't want to leave, because I was the only one that didn't live in London. So there's also kind of like rituals to when you're rap filming. There's the rap party, there's the casting crew screening. Like, I knew I wasn't gonna get to go to any of those, and I knew saying goodbye to some people that I possibly would really never see them again. And it was hard. And but what surprised me was I had like unlocked anger. I had like never like yelled at anybody before. And so I just like did it. I didn't know how to do that. And so I had to really unlock a lot of channels in my body to actually allow my emotions to come out, and not stay internalized and turn into other things. And I kind of thought like, okay, well, I opened that, like, great discovery. And then I realized that when I got back to the US, it's like, oh, now I have to deal with the anger. Now I'm like, I was like driving and I would get angry about some road, whatever thing. And it took me, I think, a couple months to like get used to like actually feeling anger. I was not expecting that at all. So thanks, Terry.
I always think that great art both entertains and hopefully brings about some change, or give us maybe individually a different way of seeing things. But I think this show did even more than that. I don't want to make up numbers and stats, but I know for a fact that people who came forward with their own survival stories of abuse or stalking, various different cases, really saw an uptick. And I'm wondering, Richard, if you could speak to that. How did it make you feel? And what are those stats? Because there was definitely a big uptick.
Specifically to the UK, the stalking charity, Susie Lembley Trust, is up 47% in terms of referrals. Wow. And the male sexual abuse charity, We Are Survivors, is up 200%. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, which is amazing. It's had such a kind of positive social impact as well. And, I think that was something Baby Reindeer did. That there was a social element. There was the I Want to Talk About It page that comes up, I think, a couple of times during the credits and at the end of the series. And I was very keen to get those two charities that I'd worked with that I just mentioned on the Netflix website. And a lot of referrals go directly through that website to these charities. It's Baby Reindeer's the number one discussion point in the rooms, in the one-on-one sessions and everything like that. And it's just, I mean, it's just kind of incredible. I love that about it. I really do.
It's a really generous show, and the last episode, I'm not going to say what happens in case there's someone who hasn't seen the last episode, but I can say I think that it ends on a beautiful act of generosity. It's a very casual one, but it really fills my heart with warmth. I'm wondering if you always had that ending, or did you toy with different kinds of endings?
I always had that ending in mind. I can't remember where it came to me, but it was actually quite early on in the process that I would... Thank you. Thank you. That's a long old bunch of cards. What is happening?
I will try to read them all.
It reminds me of the Simpsons episode where it's like you have 5 minutes to move your car, you have 5 minutes to move your cube. No, a couple of people. It's a good. Yeah, no, thank you. It's a good. Yeah, it's good. It's a good one. It's really good. Go watch the. Anyway, plug in the Simpsons now. Sorry, what was the question?
The question was about the ending.
Oh, the ending. Yeah, I always said the ending. I came up with the idea very early on, and I really wanted that sort of cyclical trauma element because I think trauma begets trauma, and I really just thought it was just a very good way of showing it. I never really want to say what I meant by the ending. I have a very clear meaning when I wrote it, but I always wanted it to be kind of ambiguous, and I always wanted it to be open to interpretation. But I always thought that was really to get a character to the same place as the character at the start where he gives them the drink. I just always wanted to get it to that point, and I fought very hard to keep the ending that way, for sure.
It's a beautiful end note. Okay, so some audience questions. The first one I have here is for Nava. And I feel like you spoke to this a little bit, but it's a broader question. How do you feel about the cultural impact of the show, especially for representation of trans women of color around the world?
I mean, I feel like I never, ever cease to be amazed by it. People come up to me and people send me messages, and I see things online, and I didn't know that's what we were doing. It was just this little thing that was ours and the cast and crews, and I really never imagined that so many people would see themselves in Terry or feel empowered by her. And I think that it speaks to how desperately we need representation of trans women of color. It speaks to how rich we actually are. My old friend Arya Saeed always says that trans women of color are among the richest people in the world. We're amongst the most disenfranchised, but we actually hold so many riches, and it's beautiful that everybody can see that in Terry, and it's like now I can see it, even though I don't think I knew that when we were performing it. So it feels like a gift that came back to me. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. And this one is for Richard. What stood out about Jessica and Nava that led you to casting them?
Oh, I mean, so many things. I mean, I could praise them both for forever. Yeah, I mean, I suppose when I write the characters, it's hard to describe. It's almost like an energy thing that I was looking for, and that you hope to capture in the writing. But there's so many. Everything's so open to interpretation that you can get 100 different takes on one sort of character. But they just captured the energy I was looking for. And they're just both amazing. They just did these amazing additions. I just thought it was, they were such long, the casting process was long, and there was a lot of voices and a lot of opinions, and and a lot of stuff. And I think we made no secret. Did you audition 5 times?
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, but I was ready after the first minute of the first audition,
Now
Could have let me know, yeah.
I know. And there was something like that Jess did that was so like, it's so hard to do, Martha. It's so like, you have to be almost in the same line, be vulnerable and scary, funny and weird and everything at once, and and it's just so hard to do. It's just so hard, but you just had it straight away. And Nava, Terry was such a long search as well. And I remember waking up one day because we had the kind of creatives had a sort of a WhatsApp group, and there was a sudden text: has everyone seen Nava's tape? Has everyone seen Nava's tape? And I was like, oh, and I logged on, and it was like an ability to sort of be quite fierce and quite sort of sparky and stuff, but still have the same vulnerability. Again, I always want the characters to be kind of contradictory almost in the way that they are. I think all the characters hopefully are quite contradictory and layered. And it was the ability, there were some very difficult scenes we gave Terry to do, but you just brought such a sort of spark and such an energy to them, but managed to be vulnerable at the same time. Never felt like shouting. It felt like it was always from a wounded place. Look, I could go on and on and on, but you know, it was a long process, and they're both brilliant. So yeah.
They are both brilliant. Thank you. A question about how does it compare sharing the story live in real time on stage versus doing a serious adaptation on Netflix? And if I can add a layer to that, it's a one-man show. You're in charge of everything, and now you're here with other actors. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's going from performing to 250 people a night to 250 million Netflix subscribers. So it's a hell of a leap in terms of exposure. So there's an extreme sort of vulnerability, and the stakes just get higher and the pressure gets higher. And then I come from a sort of theatrical background where, there was loads of amazing people that worked on the live show. But then you go into, there's so many things to think about, so many different departments. So when I think about 196 people were employed on Baby Reindeer, and I'm an obsessive micromanager, so that's a lot of people, and then it's bringing characters to life and finding the right people and making decisions in the moment, and God, it's just the same, but on a much bigger scale. But it's still exposing. It's still really, really exposing. It's just on a much bigger scale, yeah.
And I think this is a question for everyone. What was your favorite part of the filming success series? What was your favorite part of the filming the series? I think that's what the question is. I couldn't read it. A question for everyone. The funnest day on set.
The funnest day on set. Go on.
If you have to pick one.
Go on.
Your favorite part.
I have to go first? Okay. My favorite part.
I actually, I was thinking we don't have a blooper reel, but there was one day when we were filming the scene in Martha's flat where Donny breaks up with her. And we were really pushed for time because we were filming on this council estate and we needed to be out at a really specific time. And they wanted to get one final close-up. But to do that, they would have had to put this kind of track in to kind of zoom into me. So Christoph, our brilliant DOP, was like, I could do it on this. So they have this steady cam. We've got to kind of push this winch down. And it's a really, really heavy device. And he said, I can do it. And they were like, you sure? We've got 5 minutes. Let's go. So it was a close-up of me. And Donny kneels down and says, Martha, I'm breaking up with you. And in that moment, it was so heavy for Christoph, he went, but it sounded like he was reacting. And that really made me laugh. It's probably the only blooper we have. Yeah. Where it was literally like, Martha, I'm breaking up with you. Like Real Housewives or something. Oh. So that was really funny.
It was like take 20, you finally got what it meant.
Yeah. He was like, oh. Yeah, so that was really funny.
Okay, I remembered. All right.
Okay, good.
So it was fun when we had to be running away from Martha. You remember, it was like 2 days because every shot had to start as if we were already running. And so Richard and I would go outside and run in circles and do like jumping jacks and then just wait to hear them take action and then go do the scene. But there was also, there was this one shot where Martha's supposed to walk into the window and you see like her shadow and we're like in the warehouse. And I just thought it was hilarious. And I remember we just couldn't stop laughing. And we got in trouble a little bit, maybe because we had to like get the shot. But it just became like a buddy comedy all of a sudden. It was great. It was great, yeah.
how have your lives changed since Netflix started airing Baby Reindeer and the big old caps thank you at the end? So, how did your lives change?
Yeah, overnight, pretty much. It was kind of. I remember genuinely when it went out at 8 a.m. in the UK on the 11th of April, and I remember thinking, oh, maybe some people might watch it this weekend, but it felt like it literally overnight. It was literally instant. It was like it went up, and then my phone just started exploding, and then the doorbell started ringing, and all of a sudden I was getting recognized everywhere I went, and you know, social media exploded, and TikTok was going wild for it, and everyone seemed to be talking about it, and me and us and everything, and it just suddenly became a cultural phenomenon within a week, and it was crazy. You know, I remember sitting with one of the Netflix bots, who told me that over a weekend, I was one of the most Googled people in the world. And it's just like, it's just crazy when you hear that kind of stuff, you know? Yeah, I mean, it felt almost instantaneous after it came out that my life was changed, that everything was different now.
Incredible. Yeah. And how about you, Jessica? I will tell you, if you actually go to Etsy and type Baby Reindeer, there's a lot of Marta merchandise or coffee mug. You can buy a Valentine's Day card. It's a big phenomenon, your character. So tell us about how that changed
set
your
up
life.
like a little stall, yeah.
And are you getting your residuals?
Yeah, it's funny because I've been working now for about 17 years, and to even work genuinely is such an honour in this business. And sometimes you get to be part of a show that helps make people feel like they can escape or laugh, but then you get a chance to be part of something that genuinely is kind of making people feel seen for the first time. So for me, it's just, you know, having people come up and talk about how much they feel changed by it. And those charity statistics are just incredible. I mean, I feel exactly the same. And then occasionally, maybe I'll be on the street. Like a few weeks ago, I got out of my car and walked around this corner, and this lady just screamed. But it's because, in her defense, she just finished episode 7, and she turned off her TV, opened her door, and I was there. Hello, you know, so that would have been, yeah. So it makes sense why she screamed. So I feel exactly the same, and then occasionally people scream at me and run away. That happened before as well, but you know. So yeah.
And you, Nava?
Do you mind repeating the question? Just
So how did the popularity of the show change your life ultimately?
Yeah, I think, well, I was sick for the first 2 weeks that the show came out. So I was just in bed and getting on Zoom, pretending not to be sick to do press real quick, and then back into bed. And so I didn't leave the house. And I remember I went over to my friend's house. That was like the first time I left the house. And he works in the industry. And he was just like looking at me real cautious, kind of like, how are you doing? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and he kind of had to explain it to me because I didn't really know what was happening. And I kind of feel like it's been that feeling the whole time of like having to catch up to something that everybody else knows or sees. Because, yeah, I'm just the same. It's just now, I guess, people know who I am, and I don't know who they are. But I think, likewise, it's been an overwhelming outpouring of love and connection and reflection and real conversation. Which I think is not always the case. When people get recognized, it feels very personal somehow, like it's so many people, and yet every time it feels personal. So I take it as a gift, and I do hope I can go to the grocery store again one day and just do my thing, you know. That'll be nice one day. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, here's a great one. Richard, one of my favorite parts of the show was your stand-up, especially the dancing. Would you ever consider going back to stand-up comedy? New York City would love to have you. This is from Stephanie.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's so sweet, to hear that, because I think it's funny as well, Like I do. It wasn't, but it's, it died. It was always go so badly, but it's funny. Somebody came up to me in the street the other day and were like, "Yo, I actually Googled you on YouTube and saw your old comedy for real. Yeah, it really was that bad." And I'm like, "All right, man," but yeah, no, that's real sweet. Because I think I love that sort of anti-humor stuff and that sort of anti-comedy. I don't know. I think for now, obviously, I'm going in a sort of television writing and sort of acting direction, and I'm doing a BBC show next, which is sort of another drama. And but yeah, maybe one day I'll dust off the props and come to New York City.
Yeah. We didn't hear a no about coming to New York, so we have reason to hope. What do you hope the lasting impact of the show will be from Jen? Would like to take this, maybe you, Richard?
Yeah, I don't know. I never want. I think that a lot of art and a lot of television in this day and age sort of forces a point onto people. You have to feel this way. This is how you should feel about this thing. And I actually quite like the ambiguity. I quite like that people take what they want out of the show. I quite like that people think it's about this. Some people think it's about a stalker. Some people think it's about trauma. Some people think it's about loneliness and isolation, or the need for love and the need for connection. And I like that. And then there's other people that will take all the charitable stuff out of it and say, well, that's the most important thing, and that's the legacy. I like that it can be any one of 100 things. And I would never really want there to just be one way it's remembered. I would want each individual person to remember it the way they want to.
And I think this next question you just answered, because it's a question about, you rendering the humanity of each character and the nuance and complexity so well. It's been characterized as a stalker story. How would you characterize your story? So I think you, in a way, just answered that. This in the eye of every viewer. But do you have your own? If somebody asks you, what is it about? Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, I do like it to be open to interpretation. I do like if people take something from it, then that's probably what it is, because that's their idea and that's their singular vision and that's what they take from it. And I like that. And even if they think, oh, something about this is wrong or whatever, then that's fine too. I like that it provokes people into thinking, what is this about? I like that it forces people to question what this show's about. I always thought, obviously, the way it would be seen is, have you seen that stalker story on Netflix? But I always thought that was a simplistic way of putting it. I always thought it was about trauma. It was every character in it suffering from trauma, not just the three people you see on stage here. Donny's dad, for example, everyone in it is struggling with something, but that is the human condition. And yeah, and I whereas I think it's more simple than, it's just a thriller about a stalker. I think it's more complicated than that. I would just never want to force a certain thing onto people and think, oh, it's about this, by the way, and you should think that way. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have time for probably a couple more. This question is from Kayla. Have you heard that people are already preparing Halloween costumes for Donny and Marta? I believe it. What do you think of this, and how the show has entered pop culture? It's in the zeitgeist.
Wow. No, I've not heard that. Had you heard that?
I heard that today, actually. Yeah. That's the thing that I can't. I sometimes, it really has. Sorry, does someone else want to answer? No, it's just mad. Like Donny Dunn suits are getting sold en masse, and there's now somebody sent me a link. There's masks of us on eBay. If you heard, like little paper masks and like life size. It's just so crazy. And there's a Valentine's Day card I saw that has Martha's face, and above it it's I've never taken up the chufter, but I might make concessions with you. So I love that it's doing all this stuff. I love it. Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple more. I feel like this one you probably answered. All right, a question from Natalie. It's for you, Richard. Have you thought about casting someone else to play Donny at any point, or did you always know that you wanted to play the part?
I thought I never want to be one of those people that whenever they write something, they put themselves in it, and it can sometimes be a bit wonky, and I've seen that writers put themselves in stuff before, but I thought it added an interesting layer because I'd been through so much of this stuff myself. I thought it added a layer of art. It added a layer of sort of complexity to it. And I think a lot of the discussion has been around that. Oh, the guy that actually has acted in this has also been through this. And I thought it actually made the art more interesting. But I would never cast myself like, I don't know if I did the show about I would never cast myself if I didn't think it was adding to it. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I always wanted. I know everyone in the show had done a lot of work before, but it's why I really didn't want fame in it too much, like mega fame actors in this show, because I wanted the world to be believable. I wanted it to feel authentic and real. And I guess I'm quite famous now. And I would always be wary of how that would look in something that I write, because ultimately I would always want the art to be at the forefront of what I do. If I feel I will add to it and make it more interesting, then I will do it, but I will always try and check my reasons for doing so, because I would never want to get that motivation wrong. The only way I do it is if I cannot think of anyone else who would do this better, I would do it. But I always want the art to be at the forefront. Yeah.
Art being at the forefront. That's a beautiful note to end the conversation on. Thank you so much, Nava.
Thank you for having us.
And Richard.
Thank you.
And thank you to the audience for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.